you are watching this video, we have one thing in common, and that is we both have crawl spaces. Many homes and cottages without basements are built over crawl spaces. That is, the floor of the house is built over an excavation deep enough for someone to gain access to the underfloor space by crawling. The floor can be concrete, but most often clay, sand, rock, or any combination. This space can house your furnace and ductwork as well as your hot water tank and electrical. In most cases, including mine, crawl spaces are dark, damp, and musty smelling. Over the years, I've been in many crawl spaces taking moisture readings of the subfloor and relative humidity, which I've encountered snakes, mice, rats, spiders, as well as any other insects and bugs that thrive in a damp environment. The exposed earth contributes a lot of water vapor into the crawl space air. Moisture travels upward from the soil by capillary action and evaporates at a rate of up to 13 gallons per day for a 1,000 square foot home. It is not possible to dry out the earth in a crawl space. Groundwater can also enter under the footings, between the footings and the walls, through the block walls, and also through the cracks in a poured concrete foundation. This excessive moisture migrates into the subfloor, then into the hardwood flooring, causing it to cup and even buckle if proper expansion space has not been allowed. Although you are living upstairs, 40 to 70% of the air you breathe is coming from your crawl space through the stack effect, which creates an airflow in your home from bottom to the top. The musty smell in your crawl space is the off-gassing of mold growing, which is definitely not the air you want to be breathing. This is a smell we would notice on arrival after the cottage had been closed up for a few days. We thought we were coming to the cottage to breathe clean, fresh country air, and when we realized the fresh country air was actually musty air from the crawl space, we quickly decided to correct the situation. If you or your family members are sick more often than others, it could be caused by this fungi. Viruses and bacteria thrive in the high humidity stagnant air from the crawl space. The information is on the humidity and health chart. Humans and wood flooring enjoy the same conditions, which is 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit with a relative humidity between 30 and 50%. Crawl space problems can be corrected by covering the exposed earth with a minimum 6 mil poly overlapped at least 6 inches and taped at joints, as well as going up the wall 12 inches and taping. If the block wall is damp or showing signs of water damage, go up the wall and tape to the sill plate. The whole point is to cover the area and seal it to prevent the moisture from being able to vaporize and enter the subfloor. Insulate the walls but not the ceiling. I use spray foam that is unaffected by moisture. Bats of insulation quickly pick up moisture and fall onto the crawl space floor. By encapsulating the crawl space, you create a clean, dry space that isn't affected by moisture. Previously, I mentioned up to 13 gallons per day of moisture can vaporize into your crawl space due to capillary action. Putting a commercial dehumidifier in the crawl space that removes 10 gallons per day will obviously not solve the problem if the plastic is not being used. Not long ago, it was recommended that vents be placed in the crawl space to promote airflow. This did not make any sense because in the winter, the colder outside air was allowed into the crawl space, making the subfloor cold. In the summer, the warmer, humid air entering the cooler crawl space increases the humidity 2.2% for each degree Fahrenheit. Outside air with a temperature of 80 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity of 70% enters a crawl space that is 65 degrees. Doing the math on this one, 80 Fahrenheit minus 65 Fahrenheit equals 15 times 2.2, which raises the humidity 33%. Adding 33% to the already 70% equals 103%, which we know can't be more than 100%. Once the humidity reaches 100%, condensation forms on all cool surfaces, like the ductwork, steel beams, and windows. Condensation makes everything wet, which promotes mold growth and wood exposed in the crawl space to rot. After the crawl space is sealed, a dehumidifier draining into an enclosed sump hole keeps the humidity down. There is also a new system called HumiFresh, which reverses the sack effect by bringing the air from upstairs and exhausting it out through the crawl space. The company says the system controls the humidity and uses much less electricity than a dehumidifier. I would recommend a humidistat with a probe placed in the crawl space to continually monitor what's happening in the crawl space. Summary: Damp air takes more energy to heat and cool, so spending money to get rid of the dampness in a crawl space will pay for itself, not to mention the health benefits that can't be measured. Bare soil will continually wick moisture into the crawl space. Cross ventilation in the crawl space has been proven not to be effective as the relative humidity changes when air is heated or cooled. 40 to 70% of the air you breathe can come from the crawl space. The subfloor moisture content must be within 2% of the hardwood flooring before the flooring can be installed. Previously I mentioned up to 13 gallons per day of moisture can vaporize into your crawl space due to capillary action. Putting a commercial dehumidifier in the crawl space that removes 10 gallons per day will obviously not solve the problem if plastic is not being used.